This is Live Bet Saturday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We welcome you back in a fresh hour of VSiN's Live Bet Saturday with Will Hill. I'm Ben Wilson. A lot of great action to take you through for the next couple hours. NBA, NHL playoffs. This hour we'll play a little game of listen and react as far as storylines around the NFL draft. I'm ready for NHL action though to start, Will, within the next couple hours here. St. Louis, Winnipeg, puck drop in just over an hour. We'll also have Avalanche and Stars. Game 1 coming up 8 p.m. Eastern. And we get our previews. We'll start those. 2 more NBA games to get underway on this Saturday night. Right now at the half, though, Clippers 53, Nuggets 49. Denver used a pretty big run at the end of the first half, 13-2, to get this back to a 4-point game. We're at one point, Will, catching 6.5, 7 points in game. It's not the case anymore. Looking at some of our second half numbers throughout the market here, it's Denver -2, down 4, puts them at +2 for the game. And then 115.5 is your total. You made a great point in our previous segment, Nikola Jokic playing with 3 fouls, so keep that in mind here for the second half. I'm not really enticed to do anything. I had some Clippers +3.5 from last Sunday when it opened, and I'm content just to ride that out. Will, how about you?
Yeah, riding it out has been a good strategy for you because we were sitting together Master Sunday, Rory McIlroy. Yeah. When you had a chance to get off it, take the field, you said, "Nope, I'm not doing it." And then I ended up working. I don't think we were on the air for the ending. We weren't. So congrats, by the way, on that. That was that was a lot of fun, that roller coaster ride. Yeah, should be a good ending. Denver gets back in the game here in the closing minutes of the half. A run they really needed because a team as good as the Clippers, when they're up, what were they up 15, 16? You let that thing go to 20. You're talking about something. I know it's the NBA and everyone makes a run. You're talking about a run that's really hard to overcome, a lead that's really hard to overcome if it got any further. So Denver now, anybody's ball game, I would say. I would say here in Denver should be a good game. Game 1, obviously, of the playoffs was a blowout. Just looking at, if you had your eye on baseball, Sasaki continues to get hit, man. 2 runs. I haven't watched, so I don't know if it's hard contact or whatever. But Sasaki giving up 2 runs, not that you can pick much apart about the Dodgers that you don't like, but Sasaki has not been great. He really hasn't in limited time here. Just going through some of these scores. Mets up 2-0. Cleveland up 1-0 on Skeens. Washington up 3-2 on the Rockies. Red Sox and White Sox scoreless. And Hunter Green, everyone's favorite for Cy Young, did you see that price got to $350 on a Cy Young? We're 3 weeks into the season. It's the middle of April for a guy with a injury history, by the way, to be plus 350 on Cy Young. It'd be crazy to bet that even if he wins it. But he's gotten hit a little bit. That game is 3-3. Anything you're watching here in baseball? Yankees up 3-0 on Tampa. What has caught your eye about the major leagues?
What has caught my eye is that Shane Baz, who thought would continue the nice run of great early season form today with a sub 150 ERA. He is run into some hard bats today. Yankees have touched up Baz so far. Shane Baz does have 3 Ks through 3 innings. I'm not dead yet. I have the K prop over 6.5, but certainly not a sharp Shane Baz, who's given up 3 runs in 3 innings, 3-0 Yankees there, who did get some market support today, even though it was the journeyman Carlos Carrasco on the mound for them down at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa today. That has certainly stood out. And also this was another game that just went final for games that we were tracking while we're on the air here. Chicago Cubs again used a big start and then hang on. It was not quite as insane as Friday's game where we had the 16 runs combined in the 8th inning. I'm sure you were all over that, Will, but the Cubs do win a 6-2 decision over the Diamondbacks. And the Cubs, for all their struggles last year 1 in the Craig Counsell era, you kind of wondered, would it maybe just take a year for the Cubs with how different of a manager Craig Counsell is than his predecessors, and how he's usually a guy who takes these small payroll teams, does so much with so little. It was such a bizarre dynamic going from small market Milwaukee to a team like the Cubs that has so much backing behind it. And the Cubs fell flat in their face last year. They do look like a team that is much more put together now, 14-9, and a pretty healthy lead here in an NL Central where it's been a lot of mediocrity so far between the Brewers, the Cardinals, and the Reds and Pirates all behind them.
Yeah, the Pirates are terrible, and they're wasting Skeens. I know it's only been a year plus, not even a year of him, but empty ballpark. They can't hit. Jared Jones is hurt. That is an ugly situation. You just hate as a baseball fan when these owners are so incompetent and cheap, and it's just like, man, the league is better when everyone's pushing to win. Let me ask you, because I don't know if we talked before baseball season. Were you a believer in the Reds like everybody else?
I was not. I mean, not that I was running to the window to bet under on the win total, but Cincinnati has been that chic dark horse NL Central team now for 2-3 years running. And I get that Hunter Green made huge strides as a pitcher from the guy who was over 6 ERA a couple of years ago to his numbers from last year. But I mean, that's one piece. Like, it's great to have an ace who comes into his own, and you have young pieces like an Ellie De La Cruz, who's awesome, but that doesn't just dictate you all of a sudden as a team coming together. I mean, it takes so much more than that. So I just wanted to sit on the sidelines, see how that would play out. And certainly the Reds have the talent to certainly catch lightning in a bottle at some point, go on a run. But, I watched them come into Milwaukee when the Brewers could not get anybody out after getting just torched by the Yankees. And I mean, the Reds scored, I think, one time in 3 games. It was wild. Like, they couldn't do anything on offense and looked pretty tame against a pitching staff that was going through it at the time in Milwaukee. So I'm glad that I did not buy in. Not that I didn't have anything NL Central future-wise, just because I figured it would be a very up and down, back and forth division. But Cubs appear to be that class of the division so far through the first 23 games. I admit, a very small sample size to this point.
Yeah, and how about the disparity? I can't remember, just top of my head, a season where there was a bigger gap between the American League and the National League. The National League, if the Giants are legitimate and the Braves come back to life here, which I think we all kind of expect they will, you're talking about 7 outstanding teams in the National League, or really good teams. Who's good in the American League? Now, maybe if the Yankees, despite their lack of starting pitching and their injuries, maybe with that lineup in the bullpen, the Yankees can actually be a legitimate 90-something win team. But, I mean, Baltimore's got all sorts of starting pitching injuries. I don't know if you can win with that starting pitching. Nobody in the AL Central is very good. Out west, who knows? We'll see what Texas has. I think Texas will be good, but they haven't really hit yet. What do you make of the American League? Is there a sleeper? This is one of those years where if you have a strange inkling on an American League team, I got a good feeling the Mariners or the Blue Jays or somebody weird can make a run, I might as well take a shot, because this could be a year where an 84, 85 win team gets in the playoffs in the American League. Then once you get in, who knows? What are your thoughts on the American League and really the disparity here between the AL and the NL?
Sure. It's funny, the way the Angels have started. If it was not the Angels on the front of their jerseys, I would be like, you know what? I could totally buy this team as a completely out of nowhere, out of sight, out of mind, like shock 84 win team who gets the third wild card and could kind of make some noise just from price. And the Angels are 60-1 to win the AL. The issue is it is the Angels. Will, I know it's a dangerous thing to do in sports betting, is to write off a team just because of the name, but we have also seen this story before for the Angels and the inability to hold up for 162 games health-wise. I've kind of been targeting Angels, some of their guys, like in daily props or in fantasy. Like Kyron Paris has been arguably the best second baseman in baseball for the Angels, and I don't think he's going anywhere. We had our guest on last week talking about that, and certainly the belief from people who cover the team is what they are doing with the young hitters is legit. I think Logan O'Hoppy's been a great kind of value guy to play, in daily props as far as when he's in the lineup as a catcher. So that it's funny. That was like the one team that stuck out to me. Yet I just can't do it for actual futures, long shots, because of what you figure will happen based on the youth and the lack of quality from a health perspective there. But that kind of shows you in a nutshell when that's the sort of team you're naturally gravitated toward, Will, tells you a lot about the state of the league in general.
Yeah, and to further your point, going for the Angels tonight in a game, I think I'm actually going to bet Kyle Hendricks, who you watch Major League pitchers throw. I never think I could even put the ball in play. I don't know. You and me might be able to grab a bat and go up there and at least ground out to shortstop against Kyle Hendricks, who, look, he's had a great career. He's gotten so much out of his ability, was a big-time winning pitcher with the Cubs. I mean, man, when your fastball and your changeup are about the same speed, it's not pretty. So I would expect the Giants to win that game tonight, as the Nuggets have a chance to cut it to 1. They miss a bunny here, and then the Clippers come back the other way. And Harden hits a 3, so it's back up to 6. Denver just can't quite get it to where every time they have a chance to either tie or take the lead or get closer, Clippers hit a shot to edge that lead and get that lead back up, as it's a 6-point game. Denver hits a 3, but it's called off. There's a foul before the whistle here, so Clippers still lead by 6.
And a very balanced Clippers attack tonight. 4 of the 5 starters now are in double figures. We'll get you an updated spread and total on that in just a second. A quick reminder, though, before we do that, about our friends over at Edge Boost, as they are the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. So check them out right now. No usage fees, no minimums. And you can sign up today at edgeboost.bet. Use our promo code LIVE. And when you do that, you deposit $25. EdgeBoost will match the deposit. So go to edgeboost.bet. Cashback rewards for you there. 100% approval for all betting deposits. No usage fees and no minimums. Getting the update here, live line on the Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers. It's Clippers -3.5, 219.5. Any stock you put into our first two NBA games of the playoffs, Will? First half unders, where you saw very fast starts, but then it really slowed down in the second quarter. Just a small sample size or sign of things to come here?
Daytime unders have usually been a pretty good way of going about it. As Jokic hits a long two, his foot is on the line. That cost him a point. He could have easily stayed behind the line and gotten an extra point. Yeah, daytime unders, I think, have been a good trend. And I'm not a huge believer in trends, but when I can explain it and the trend makes sense, I think it's good. And look, these guys are night creatures. They play late, they sleep late, they eat late, they wake up late. So when you got a 1 o'clock Eastern, a 3:30 Eastern for two West Coast teams, going under on that makes sense. So I get it.
And that's how the first two have played out, even though, especially in the Clippers-Nuggets game, that game started super fast through the first quarter, and then a big slowdown and ends up going under the first half number. When we return, we'll talk about where the market is going, because you mentioned the first game of the day, Will, Bucks and Pacers. Indiana wins going away by 18. Game does stay comfortably under. Not a ton of movement, but the market is starting to take shape. We'll tell you where game number 2 lines are going, with the Pacers again favored, and will Damian Lillard play? We'll tell you how the market is expecting that injury report to come out on the Milwaukee Bucks when we return, and also get into some more NFL draft talk as we roll on. It's Live Bet Saturday right here on VSiN.
This is Live Bet Saturday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Live Bet Saturday continues with a lot of NBA and NHL playoff action with Will Hill. I'm Ben Wilson. Big thanks to our producer, Rick Chapsky, and everybody else holding down the fort at our Las Vegas studios. Larry Muir, we got Fenhas Keyboom, also our guy, Justin Monteith, handling our graphics today. So thanks to the gang back in Vegas, and we're close to getting NHL playoffs underway. We'll preview the first of the two games tonight, Will, coming up in 45 minutes in a little bit. But right now, we've already had one NBA playoff game end, and game 2 lines are out. Bucks Pacers. Pacers closed 6 and 226 today. Easily covered. Total went under. Interesting, the game 2 here opens Pacers -6.5. There were all those reports about Damian Lillard being medically cleared to come back after the blood clot, the deep vein thrombosis diagnosis for Milwaukee. Will he go in game 2? They've got until Tuesday to figure that out. But the early sign, Will, is no, because the market comes out basically same number. A little bit of Bucks interest here. We're down to Pacers -6 right now, and then 225.5, 226 your consensus total. I realize that buying on the Bucks, it comes from the idea that Milwaukee can't possibly shoot 25% from 3 again. But we saw how this played out for the Bucks last year, Will, and Giannis Antetokounmpo was questionable, didn't play, questionable. Still,
bingo.
He's a possible go. Yeah, he never played in the Indiana series. It would not stun me at all if that's the same thing that happens with Damian Lillard in this Bucks-Pacers series. So I would tread very carefully as far as a buy low spot here, taking Bucks positions. But I would say, at least for game 2, Will, you got to think you get a better shooting performance from what Milwaukee delivered today, which was not much of anything.
You stole exactly what I was going to ask you as the Bucks guy. Do you trust the Bucks that they're telling the truth? Because like you said last year, it was Giannis. Oh, maybe next game. It's like that old friend from high school you run into. Oh yeah, we should hang out and have lunch sometime. When you know you're never going to have lunch or hang out or have that drink. It's not going to happen. It's just something you say. And we found out right after that series last year, Giannis was nowhere close to playing. So do you trust this information with Dame? It doesn't sound like you do fully, and I don't blame you.
I don't. Well, the Bucks have been known for playing injury report games now, going back a couple of years. I mean, they've constantly been a team that, like their questionable means different than most teams in the league is questionable. Like questionable a lot of times has meant probable, and then doubtful has actually meant questionable, and then sometimes guys go from probable to just being out. It's really weird what, every team is different, how they handle those things. Milwaukee is just a team. Yeah, you watch how the injury reports and then who plays, how that has gone on season after season. And in the Damian Lillard era, Will, you can't put much stock into them saying, well, he's medically cleared. I mean, he hasn't played in over a month. We have no idea what his actual physical condition is in, how much he was able to practice, stay in shape while he was out, dealing with a blood clot where you figure you wouldn't be allowed to play a whole lot or practice a whole lot. So how can you expect, even if he's cleared, him to be close to 100% in a series where, as was evidenced today, I mean, Milwaukee, Giannis could go for 40, 20, and 10. You could tell me that would be a stat line, Will, every single game this series. And I would still say Indiana's probably likely to win the series just because the lack of quality options behind Antetokounmpo. I mean, we got a nice 0-0-0 from Kyle Kuzma in 22 minutes today, who I thought would be a great acquisition at the trade deadline. And I've clearly been wrong, at least so far in one playoff game.
That being said, if I had to take it or lay it, and I'm obviously curious what you think, is Denver cuts this to 3. This is about as close as they've been as Murray with an acrobatic three-point play, the old-fashioned three-point play. He's up to 11 points on 3 of 10. I would take it just because, not that this is a must-win game, but I'm getting 6.5. I've got Giannis, who is still the best player in the series. Indy doesn't have a good matchup for him. The Clippers look like they forced a turnover, but Denver is going to retain possession here, down 3. You got the best player, you're getting 6.5. And like you said, can the supporting players play any worse? Probably not. So 2 questions for you. Would you take it or lay it? And who of Milwaukee, who are the realistic guys that could step up? Is it Porter Jr.? Is it Kuzma? Like, if there is some hope, and assuming Lillard's not coming back for game 2, like, where are the realistic options to get more from somebody other than Giannis?
Yeah, between side and total, if you force me, I would take just because of the positive regression. But I'd rather just look over. I mean, in a game where the pacing is going to be fast, where Milwaukee had a lot of good looks, could not make anything. Even Tyrese Halliburton wasn't all that great today for Indiana. Got off to a very slow start. Bucks traditionally have struggled mightily to defend these ball-dominant, high-level, elite skill point guards. And Halliburton today, only 10 points, 3 of 13 shooting, 0 of 7 from 3. You figure that takes a notch up for Halliburton, who absolutely torched the Bucks. I was just pulling up his numbers this year against Milwaukee within that series. He was exceptional against them, and then closed the regular season last 21 games over 20 points, had the 11 assists per game, and shot 44% from 3. So I'd probably buy low more than anything on the total. I'd look over there in game 2, over 225. Supporting cast member, it probably starts with Brook Lopez, as weird as that is to say, because Lopez at least gives them a veteran presence guy who's been there before, who's been in this system for a lot of years, along with Giannis Antetokounmpo, and carried the Bucks in a number of games when they had both Giannis and Lillard out in regular season time. They just had to put a lot more minutes, I think, than they would want to. The Bucks have on a guy as old as Brook Lopez, and he still has the game to every once in a while come up with a double-double type performance. It's just a matter of getting him unlocked and getting him in rhythm with some open looks. That would be my leader in the clubhouse based on, Bobby Portis having been suspended, hasn't played, hasn't gotten a lot of time to get back into rhythm since coming back. Kevin Porter Jr., Kyle Kuzma have been total wild cards. Don't really trust them yet in a playoff series. Same thing for Ryan Rollins and Pat Connaughton. So that's where I would be at, Will, if you were making me pick a supporting cast guy, assuming Lillard is again out for Milwaukee in game 2.
Yeah, and Denver just continues to hang around within 3. They've had a couple chances to either tie it or cut it to 1. It's just every time they need a bucket to tie it, they can't quite do it. Murray goes to the hoop and gets knocked out of bounds. They originally gave it back to Denver, but that was the incorrect call. It did kick off of Murray. So Clippers ball here, up 3. We've just played a lot of this game since that late Denver run in the first half between – basically feels like Clippers have been up by 3 or 4 this whole time. It occasionally gets up to 6. It doesn't really get closer to 3, as it looks like Zubats is going to go to the line here and have a chance to extend this to 5. So do you right now, your lofty VSiN salary on the line, who wins this game?
I got Clippers. I mean, they've been the right side. Nuggets have made the push. I still believe in LA. Now, watch this. I'd be
a little worried they haven't put them away. It feels like they've had chances to put them away. It feels like Denver's had chances to pull ahead. It's just been this push and pull. So we'll see.
Yeah, having said that, the Clippers have felt very calm and stable. You always wonder, okay, you go to altitude, you've got the raucous crowd, first game of the playoffs. Clippers just have the look of a team that's got a lot of veteran dudes on it who've been through some playoff wars in the past. Ty Lue's not batting an eye at anything that's going on. Clippers, to me, have looked very composed throughout the game today. we'll see how that goes when the intensity gets ratcheted up to the fourth quarter degree. Clippers up 4 right now, and we still will have 2 more NBA playoff games to come, Will, after this one. We'll talk Timberwolves Lakers coming up in our next segment. Right now, though, how about Pistons and Knicks, which is our highest spread of the 4 playoff games today? Knicks 7.5-point favorites right now, as they've been taking game day money. Total, which was 221, come down a touch, 220.5. And for the 4 games today, in perspective, 6 your biggest favorites so far. Updated series price I am looking at as it stands. The Knicks are sitting, let's see, minus 400 for the most part, plus 310 coming back on Detroit. Anything you did game 1 as well as series for you in this Knicks and Pistons 3-6 matchup?
Didn't play game 1. I might take Detroit. I do worry about the home crowd here against the young Pistons team, but I did play for the series. Pistons in 6 plus 900, because I do think if they're going to win the series and you're going to take the 3-1, you know what? They're probably not going to sweep. They're probably not going to win in 5. They're likely not going to win a game 7 in Madison Square Garden. It would have to be you steal one early, ideally in 1 or 2, and then you just hold serve and you close it out in game 6. You hold serve at home. I think they might have the best player in the series in Cunningham. I know how good Brunson is, but Cunningham is a legit superstar. And we've seen Thibodeau's teams have a habit. First of all, they can't beat good teams. And I think since the All-Star break, these teams have basically the same record. Pistons have a better net rating. Pistons are legit, I think. We've seen these Thibodeau teams get just tired and exhausted in the playoffs because he plays them so many minutes during the regular season, during the playoffs, where they get wore down, they get hurt. And I don't think it's an accident. So I think this young, enthusiastic Pistons team against the maybe tired, older in some spots Knicks team, I think they're live. So we'll see what happens in game 1. But I think the Pistons, I understand the case for the Knicks. If you're just drafting players playground style, all right, Cade, Brunson, 1 or 2. A lot of people probably pick Brunson still 1. And after that, it's a lot of Knicks. I get that. I just think the Pistons are live. I think the Knicks have struggled all year to beat good teams. I'm curious what you think. We're running up against a break here, but a fascinating series. I hope it's a fun series with these two teams. Did you realize the Pistons have not won a playoff game since May of 2008? Just incredible.
That's nuts. I mean, you're coming up on nearly 2 decades of that. And I have a similar thought to you. I was not as brave. I did not have the cojones as one Will Hill, who's never shy of taking a long shot price. But I definitely view Detroit as being live in this series to begin with. I'll tell you after the break how I ultimately played the series price, as well as an interesting player prop angle. Might not agree with this player or with this team winning the series necessarily, but there is an angle you can play in game 1. We'll talk about that next and begin our Timberwolves Lakers breakdown as well on the other side.
This is Live Bet Saturday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Saturday about to the fourth quarter in the Clippers and Nuggets game, shaping up for a great finish on day 1 of the NBA playoffs. Back with Will Hill, I'm Ben Wilson, finishing up our thought on the third of the 4 games to come. It is a 6 p.m. Eastern tip slated for about a half hour from now here, Will. Excited for the Pistons and the Knicks. The headline here, Will taking a swing. Pistons in 6. What number did you get on that, by the way?
9-1.
Oh, that's a juicy price. People will not be nearly as in love then with my play, because I took the conservative approach, Will. I thought the same thing you did, that the Pistons would be live. But you feel like they not only will be live, they can dominate the series with a Cade Cunningham explosion, who did average over 30 a game in the 4 games against the New York Knicks this year. Pistons won 3 of the 4, including mid-January, went to MSG, were 8.5-point dogs. Those rosters were pretty much fully healthy at the time, and Detroit went in and won the game outright. There's clearly been a precedent for what Detroit is able to do. I give Detroit a puncher's chance to make this just, at the very least, Will, a super rough and tumble, very hard series for the Knicks to win comfortably, especially when you think about the nearly 2 decades that have gone since Detroit won a playoff game and the motivation that will be there for this super young, hungry team to at least get to a back-and-forth type series and make this a sweat for the Knicks. So I played some over 5.5 games. Because the Knicks are a $4 series favorite, you actually got a pretty competitive price, only minus 115 juice when I laid it. It's still, you can get minus 120, 125 on the over 5.5 games. This is, to me, Will, a series that probably comes back. We see this come back to Detroit 3-2 and the Pistons need, I believe they'll need a win to force a Game 7 at MSG. It could very well be, though, Pistons up 3-2 and a chance to close it out if your prediction comes true and you've got the 9-1. So there's a couple different ways to play that, but I did like taking the more conservative approach, and it's basically a straight bet that this thing goes over 5.5 games.
Yeah, and usually if you're picking the lower seed to win, if you think they're going to win, 6 is the sweet spot because, like I said, I mean, if you're the lower seed, which means you're, in most cases, the worst team, the underdog, winning in 4 is very unlikely. Winning in 5 is unlikely because are you really going to beat the better team 4 out of 5 and close them out at home? Winning Game 7 on the road is always tough. 6 is the one where you just follow the formula. If you steal one early, you hold serve at home, and then you got a chance at 6 to close it out. And if you ever got to Game 6 where you're, as Westbrook just throws up a brick here, the Nuggets cannot close this to any closer than 5-3. It just continues to be arm's length here. If you're going to close it at home and you get yourself in a position where you're Detroit, you're up 3-2, headed home for Game 6, you got a nice shot if you're sitting at 9-1 to hedge or figure it out from there. As Jokic gets a steal, a layup, so we're back to a 3-point game. It's a seesaw, man. It's 2 or 3, then it's up to 5 or 6, then back down to 2 or 3. The Nuggets can't break through and take a lead. The Clippers can't extend this to double digits. Ever since that late run by Denver at the end of the first half, we've just been back and forth here in this little window between 2 and 6 points, I would say.
And the one thing that feels pretty good going to the fourth quarter is the under. If you played that pregame for Denver and LA Clippers, 224.5. Live number 202.5 is at 75-72. Clippers on top. Headed to the fourth, Nikola Jokic, 25.7 assists, has added a couple steals in the mix as well. Also, as far as numbers that are moving as we're speaking here, the Pacers series price just went to minus 305, even though money is coming in on the Bucks for Game 2, Will. Circa and Westgate out in Vegas just dropped to Pacers minus 5.5 off the open to 6.5. Can't help, though, but just laugh at the series movement because this was Indiana minus 175 before the series. Got it up to minus 210. Then we get the news come out that Damian Lillard has been cleared and will play at some point in the series. So the market just goes all in on Milwaukee. And by all in, I mean it comes all the way down to Indiana minus 165, talking a 50-cent drop. But Lillard was never going to play in Game 1 anyway, maybe not even Game 2. Indiana wins going away, and now the Pacers are out to a $3 favorite. It boggles the mind sometimes how the market reacts to stuff when it has no impact on Game 1. And if you like the Milwaukee side of it and believe that Lillard was going to come back, before the series, Will, was not the time to invest. It would be now or maybe after Game 2, and you can get a much longer price.
So has he been officially ruled out for Game 2?
Nothing official on Damian Lillard. You can bet that Milwaukee will not make that official until at least Monday at the earliest. But I would. And
these news breakers, well, it's not Woj anymore. It's Shams. These guys use very careful language, so they're reporting news without really reporting. There's optimism or there's hope, things like that, where they don't really say he's in or he's out. They use things where it's like they have a scoop, but it's really just kind of a word salad where we don't really have any definitive word whether they're playing or not. You're getting to the point. If he doesn't play Game 2, if he's not playing in Game 3, I mean, you could be down 3-0, and at that point, you're not bringing him back. So I know it's only through one game here, but to your point, Milwaukee has not been honest about these injuries. They've played the gamesmanship angle a lot here. Let me ask you, as a Bucks fan and just as a bettor, do you have what's your level of confidence that Milwaukee can actually come back and win this series?
It's about a 2. That's both fan and bet. And as a bettor, you're always looking to buy in on the team that goes down. And it's one game. It's on the road. Weird things happen to start off a series. It's a best of 7. So you're always looking to buy low on a team that has the best player in the series anytime. But I just don't have that confidence at all with the way Milwaukee is set up right now. It's good to note, though, Will Hill, big word salad guy. I'll mark that down for future reference.
Basically, the only salad I'm involved in.
You and I and Eagle are both anti-salad also.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that. I know he's anti-ketchup. I didn't know he's anti-salad.
I mean, he's just he's anti-condiment and anti-vegetable. So that's
okay.
I guess it's a weird play-by-play thing because Al Michaels was never a vegetable guy either. So I don't know. Will, you've got something in common with two titans of the industry, apparently so on Will Hill. At least we can mark down though. Will on Pistons in 6, taking one shot. So I've got a colleague of mine who's been on VSiN a bunch, Chris Farley, who is taking another shot in the Lakers Timberwolves series. He's got Timberwolves minus 1.5 games, so to win in 6 or less.
Ooh,
at a pretty big plus money price. I can't totally get there, but at the same time, there was a report that came out earlier this week. Our friend John Ewing at BetMGM said 99% of the money has been on the Lakers to win the series. So breaking news, Will. The public is on the Lakers. I know you're shocked to hear that development, but as we get ready for the nightcap, Lakers minus 4.5 in game 1. Lakers have been bet up to minus 210 favorites, plus 175 coming back on Minnesota. How do you split the difference between certainly respecting what the Lakers have in a LeBron James, Luka Doncic duo at the top, but also the market probably driving this to a number that is a little bit too rich?
There's value on Minnesota as Westbrook just continues to be awful in this game. He's taking some bad shots, some bad misses. Clippers still lead by 3, now have the ball. The Lakers shouldn't be a $2 favorite. This is, to me, closer to a 50-50 series. I ultimately couldn't get there with Minnesota just because it's Luka, it's LeBron, and it's a potential 7th game in LA. And if that's the case, Luka, LeBron, and not even conspiracy theories, those guys are good at getting to the foul line at home in a game 7. Those guys are going to get to the foul line. So Minnesota presents some matchup issues. Edwards is Jokic is on the bench now. So if you want to live bet the Clippers and figure, hey, I can get a nice number here while Jokic sits, not a bad way to approach it. Who guards Edwards? Is it Finney Smith? Is it Vanderbilt? LeBron at his age, probably a no-go. Luka isn't capable of doing it. Reeves isn't capable of doing it. So I get that. Edwards could have some big games here. I just ultimately think it's going to be Lakers in 7. So whether you want to take Lakers in 7 exactly at plus 350 or so, I could buy that. If you want to take Minnesota plus the game and a half, minus 140, I could see that. Hell, you could play both of them. So I think it's a good series. Just big picture, I think we all expect OKC to roll Memphis. I think we get 3 7-gamers in the West. Other than that, I think Rockets Warriors, which we'll get to, I'm sure, at some point, is fascinating. Denver Clippers is obviously a great series, and we're off to a good start here in game 1. And to me, Lakers T-Wolves is a very competitive series. So how do you feel about that series, and how are you playing it, if anything?
Yeah, I didn't play anything pre-series. It's one that, to me, I want to watch game 1 to start, because this is the most matchup-dependent series of all of them, where Rudy Gobert is a game-changing center against the LA Lakers team that has no center options. Could have had Mark Williams, and that trade from Charlotte gone through, but it was rescinded. But how do the Lakers change that? Do they try to throw out small ball lineups that basically keep Gobert off the floor? How does Minnesota defend Luka Doncic, who just exploded against them with Dallas last year, had over 32 points a game in that series, but had a lot better pick-and-roll options than he does this time around? And Minnesota, I believe, can at least defend him better than they did last year. Those are the specific matchups that I believe in game 1 we'll get a lot of answers to, Will. And it's one where, if Minnesota plays this tight, if it's right around the number, Lakers laying 4.5, you see the Lakers eke out a tight win, and then that series price spikes a little bit. It was already inflated to begin with. That's the time, to me, I would then be interested in buying low on Minnesota.
Yeah, I think it's a competitive series. I'm happy to take the game and a half, and if it goes to 7, I win. If Minnesota wins the series, I win. So ultimately, I can't really quite get to picking Minnesota because of Luka and LeBron, but I think we're looking at a really good series.
Timberwolves 19-10, one of the best teams, both offense and defense, since mid-February.
Yeah.
Hey, that's right around when the Luka Doncic trade happened for the Lakers. So Minnesota have been playing good ball, just like the Lakers have been playing good basketball since acquiring Luka Doncic. All right, we're into the 4th quarter at Ball Arena in Denver. Great finish to start the NBA playoffs on tap. We'll break it down for you next on Live Bet Saturday.
This is Live Bet Saturday on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Live Bet Saturday into crunch time. Day 1 of the NBA playoffs. We're in the 4th quarter. LA Clippers, Denver Nuggets. A game that the Clippers led by double digits throughout most of the first half. Nuggets, Will Hill, have continued to make runs. It seems like every time they get to within about 1 to 3 points, there's a sort of back-breaking 5-point swing that goes the other way, where the Nuggets miss a point-blank shot and the Clippers get an and 1 or a 3. But Russell Westbrook does get a dunk right at the 8-minute mark on a nice pass from Nikola Jokic, who's back into the game. Jokic so far today, 25 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists. And it's a 1-point game, man. Going to be an awesome finish down the home stretch. I have my Clippers plus 3.5 from last Sunday night still in pocket. I'm hanging on for dear life right now, but I mean, the Clippers have had an answer at every moment. Kawhi Leonard with a nice mid-range to make the lead back up to 3.
It's a seesaw, man. Every time Denver gets it to 1, I don't know. I remember it was like 10-9 Denver, but that might have been their last lead. And just every time Denver gets close, Clippers answer as Murray finally ties it. So the streak here of consecutive minutes with the Clippers having a lead ends. We'll see if the Clippers can once again respond. Murray, who just watching this without having the box score in front of me, has not been great today. He hits a big 3. And the big thing for Denver, it's going to be huge in the series. Can you survive the Jokic minutes? They gave him a brief rest. The league got up to 5, and we saw him, I think it was during commercial, check right back in. So, look, he can't play 48 minutes, but can you get 40, 42 minutes out of him? Because when he sits, there's just not a lot on Denver, and the Clippers just have so much more talent. 1 through 7, that's going to be an issue. So that's going to be something to watch throughout the series. But 81 all, 7 minutes to go. This is good basketball. 2 really good teams. A series we all expect to be very competitive, and a pivotal game 1 here. Can a game 1 be pivotal? Well, I guess it can be pivotal, but should be an exciting finish here to end this game.
At game 1, it can't be must-win, but it can still be pivotal to start a series.
Okay.
Jamal Murray, 5 of 16, by the way. The box score has matched what you've watched with your eyes as not an efficient game. And Nikola Jokic just took a shot off the ball on a Nick Batum go-ahead 3 for the Clippers. And Batum, I should say Jokic, man, going at the refs, and they just teed up Jokic, who has 4 fouls right now, and he just got teed. When's the last time you saw Jokic this mad? And I think he has every reason to be mad, Will, because it looked like he got popped off the ball. Refs totally missed
He did.
It.
He's got to watch it, though, because he got teed up and then he kept going. It would take a lot of cojones, especially in Denver, to throw Jokic out of a playoff game and double team him. But he pushed the limit. Now, sometimes it's worth it in the NBA. I don't like it in college because it's 2 shots and the ball, and it's such a penalty when you get teed up. But sometimes when you get screwed on a call, for a coach, for a player to take the technical and really make your point, you wonder if that sells the next couple whistles where the ref really knows, all right, this guy's mad. I probably missed that one. Then you get the next couple calls in your favor. So keep an eye on the whistle here down the stretch as Jokic gets teed up. That does not count as a personal in the NBA, correct?
Correct, yes. Just wanted to point out he also is at 4 fouls as well. But this is now seeing the live total really dip. We're down to 199.5. This was a pregame total in the 224.5 range. Clippers live, 2.5-point favorite. We take a deep breath there. Wait for the home stretch, Will. We're also about 15 minutes away from the NHL playoffs getting underway. Neither of us are big hockey bettors by any means, but just to go through the lines, Will, where they're at. You could also make the case, as much as we love the NBA, 3 of the 8 series here, the underdogs are 15-1 or longer. Meanwhile, you get Winnipeg, who started the season 15-1. They win the President's Trophy for most points in the regular season. They've been dominant all year, and they're barely over a $2 favorite in round 1 against the St. Louis Blues, who at one point in January, Will, were 10-1 just to make the postseason. They're the hottest team now in hockey. They're 19-4-3 since the end of the Four Nations tournament, and we saw regular season play resume. They have a goalie in Jordan Binnington who's led them to a Stanley Cup title run, and it's kind of eerie, the similarities, because in 2019, the Blues fired their coach midseason. Craig Berube came in. They fired their coach again early in the season now, and instead of Craig Berube this time, it was Jim Montgomery, former Boston Bruins head coach, have gotten hot, got a hot goalie. There's a reason why people are betting the Blues here. It's just pretty wild to see, though. The hold mentally and emotionally that being a Canadian team in the NHL playoffs has, Will. There's so much pressure because of the Stanley Cup, a championship drought for Canadian teams. Winnipeg's gone out in 5 games in the first round each of the last 2 years. And if you had a different name on the Winnipeg jerseys, I got to think that this would be a little bit higher. But we've seen this happen in the NHL before, so there's a reason why. A lot of the bettors here are taking long shot prices with the St. Louis Blues to make a run, as well as at about plus 190 to win the series.
Well, we were waiting for football season to start all last summer. I was infamously very high on the Jets. I didn't specify what sport. I said the Jets would be good in here. So the Jets, with a good season in hockey at least.
Good call, man.
Do you have any futures here in the NHL? If you had to pick a Stanley Cup final, who would you pick?
I would look. I don't want to say necessarily Vegas out of the West, even though I do believe like this, because the Central Division teams were so packed this year and so tight. And because Edmonton has serious injury concerns right now, Leon Draisaitl less than 100%. A lot of reports that Connor McDavid hasn't been 100%. Vegas has sort of gone a little more under the radar, and that could be a very good thing for a team that's got as much star power as anybody in the West. I don't want to be accused of being being a homer here for VSiN being based in Vegas, but we've seen the Golden Knights make deep postseason runs in the past. And the East, to me, I have no sense or feel. I mean, the only series price that I really looked at was the Lightning against the Panthers in round one. We had Andy Strickland on earlier, who does like the Lightning to make a deep run through the Eastern Conference. I don't know about that, but you do have a Florida team that is off back-to-back Stanley Cup trips, and you just wonder, Will, and the nature and the physicality of the NHL, how taxing that is for a team now making a third straight run. And Tampa Bay with the infrastructure, how solid they traditionally have been, opportunity for some revenge in that series against the Florida Panthers, and it's about a pick 'em. So that was the only one that really jumped out to me as far as first-round future prices.
Murray, by the way, after Harden makes the technical free throw, Denver gets a stop. Murray with a brutal turnover, a live ball turnover, and now a foul the other way. So a game that was just tied. Clippers hit a three, the technical, and now LA going to the line with a chance to extend this right back up to 6. So they've answered every punch. They've hit every response. It's almost like in baseball when one team scores a run, they come back and they allow a run that next inning. They can't get over the hump of tying this game here. So the Clippers up 5, looking to make it up 6. How about what would a Toronto-Colorado final is like 32-1 based on your hockey expertise? Is that a good bet?
I could see.
And are you a believer in the Leafs? The Leafs are always this tortured team here. Come postseason time. Do you think this Leafs team is different?
I don't know that I've seen enough to believe that they are, just because, I mean, again, the East has been very up and down this year. There's been a lot of teams to me that have looked very live to be kind of assert themselves as the best team and steps back. Washington is your biggest favorite as far as the Eastern Conference Series prices here to start round one. But I mean, Ottawa, to me, Ottawa is totally live in that series against the Maple Leafs with the with the way they've started out, really no expectations at all for the Senators. They've had a great second half of the season. I'd say kind of like a Blues light in that they played really good hockey down the home stretch, and not a team that Toronto would take lightly. So I would not. I don't know that I'd want to put all my eggs in that Toronto basket. Will, and it is also. I mean, people. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. No, I say the keep the cup out of Canada. People love to give us a hard time whenever we joke about that, but and you do as well. But from a betting perspective, it has not been a bad thing to, especially later on in the playoffs, fade some of those teams when you think about the pressure ratcheting it up, and the way that does play sometimes a mental tax, and it doesn't always get baked into the betting lines.
You're good about remembering this stuff. From what I can remember, I didn't go back and look it up. The NBA playoffs and NHL playoffs usually do not start on the same day. Don't they usually separate it by like a week or two? Is it unusual for them to both be starting on the same Saturday as Denver hits a 3, Murray hits a 3? It's now a 1-point game once again. As we're looking at a hell of a game here. Hell of a finish.
We are. It is unusual, and it's because you had the Four Nations tournament, which was usually it's just a couple-day All-Star break for the NHL. They actually normally the NHL finishes earlier than NBA. They finish earlier by about a week. But because the Four Nations tournament lasted an extra week, here you go. You're set at the same time. So St. Louis, Winnipeg coming up. That's Winnipeg minus $2. 5 is your total juice to the over at plus 130. Then Colorado, Dallas in the nightcap. Colorado on the road, a favorite, minus 150. 6.5 a total juiced under, minus 120. And what a finish we have in store, Will, because Nick Batum just hits a major 3 for the Clippers. They're up 4. And what we're about to watch, Jamal Murray, a little step back, hoisting, waiting, and Nikola Jokic. My odd screen shows that what we're about to see is a little slip pass and an Aaron Gordon trade to make it a 1-point game back and forth. So here we go. We'll cover this down to the home stretch. Clippers 92, Nuggets 91, 4:16 to go. And it's fun. Will and I might be on opposite sides just for the series, but we still we want to see good basketball, and it has delivered to AT. So we'll take you home in our final hour. Nuggets Clippers down to the wire. We'll preview the Sunday NBA games, talk about some night action in Major League Baseball, and some more NFL draft conversation in our last hour of Live Bet Saturday.